Hi everybody, this is Suzanne, Unit Coordinator for Arts Education. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this presentation. This presentation will be all about Assessment 1. Okay, so Arts Education Assessment 1 for TP3. The first assessment is an essay. It has a 2,000 word limit, and that can be plus or minus 10%. So plus 200 words or minus 200 words. Please be careful not to go over that maximum limit because the ELA is not required to read any more than the 2,200 words, just to be fair on all students. So yeah, just keep that word limit in mind, please. The due date is the 5th of December at 5 p.m. That's week 5. So coming into the silly season, so just be aware of that and have in mind that you'll be needing to balance all the things that are going on at that time of the year, work, study, family, all of that. So if you do need anything up to 24 hours or 48 hours, sorry, extension, you can ask your ELA for up to 2 days extension. Anything beyond that, you'll have to actually go to the student portal and fill in the online form, and that comes straight to me, and it usually does require some kind of evidence. It's for extenuating circumstances such as bereavement and illness. So only in extreme circumstances can you really be applying for that long extension. Okay, the assessment is worth 40% and it asks you to demonstrate your understanding of the role and the value of the arts in the primary education context. So this essay is a persuasive essay, meaning that you do need to convince or persuade your audience on the following quote, which is, why are arts experiences valuable in the primary education? So you can draw on your own personal experience for this essay, and it does need to be informed by literature. So a little bit similar to that activity we did in the first week, where we kind of discussed our own experiences of the arts as either a learner or a participant, and we also supported our own experiences with the research. You will need to engage with and interpret the learning materials from Module 1 in answer to this essay. So making sure that you're having a look at things like the podcast, the readings, the clips and the activities, and also sourcing some independent literature to inform your arguments. Please try and make sure that the literature that you utilise is academic and avoid things like Wikipedia, online dictionaries, avoid commercial websites. Please just try to find that academic research, which is peer-reviewed, and you'll usually find that kind of research in places like the Swinburne Online Library or Google Scholar, or you could visit an old-fashioned real library if you feel like it. Okay, but just yeah, not just relying on good old Google, which can of course be very unreliable and unsubstantiated at times. Okay, so your essay can be written in the first person, which is a little bit unusual for an academic essay. So some of you may not have written in the first person for a while. That means you can say things like I, me, we, because this essay does draw on your own experiences. So therefore, that is being allowed for this essay. Having said that though, you do need to make sure that all other aspects of the essay are within the usual boundaries of academic writing. So making sure that your language is not colloquial or everyday, that it is academic language and good sentence construction, good use of paragraphs, sentencing, grammar, punctuation and so on. You do need to use APA style referencing, So if you haven't already, you might need to brush up on your APA style information. So you can check that out in the student portal. Or if you have a look at your assessment sheet in Blackboard, the assessment information sheet, there are some good resources there that will lead you to some essay writing skills, referencing, essay planning, and so on. Your essay will need a clear introduction. Your introduction generally should introduce the topic. It should give a bit of an overview about what is to come, and it should really make it clear as to what the topic and the structure of your essay is going to be. Then the rest of your essay will be made up of a series of paragraphs that build on your argument for why arts experiences are valuable. So you're building up a persuasive argument or a rationale as to why it is important that children experience arts in the primary education context. Now, the conclusion should reiterate and sum up your argument. The conclusion should not look like the introduction. It should not be a restatement of the introduction, and we shouldn't see any new information in the conclusion. And certainly there should be no need for in-text citations or quotations in your conclusion. That should all be in the main body of the essay, and the conclusion should really just reiterate and sum up your argument. Okay, the assessment will be submitted via Turnitin, which you access in Blackboard. Just go to the assessment section, then click on Assessment 1 Essay, go to View Assignment and click the Submit tab and upload. You should always make sure that you keep your original essay backed up, just in case there's an issue with Turnitin. Unfortunately, if there's an issue with Turnitin or the ELA doesn't get your assessment for some reason because of a technical issue, it is still your responsibility to have backup of that essay. So I would recommend that you have that you email it to yourself, that you perhaps upload it to the cloud in somewhere like iCloud or Google Drive or something like that. That you put it also on a hard drive. It's always good practice to save your assessments in at least 3 different places. Emailing it to yourself is always a good one too. If you please put, when you're naming your file, please name it with the word final. That way we know that it is your final submission. Because some people do upload drafts to Turnitin to check their originality score, and we want to make sure when we're looking at your essays that we know for sure that it is actually your final submission. Okay, the assessment criteria that is being covered here is your knowledge of issues pertaining to arts education. So really just giving your background knowledge on the arts in that, you know, that you've gained in that first module or those first 4 or 5 weeks of learning in the unit, and your capacity to argue persuasively. So you really do need to convince the audience of where you stand in terms of the arts education. You need to show us why arts experiences are relevant to the primary education context. So it really does need to be, your argument needs to be put in the context of student learning and what's happening in the classroom. Your format and structure of the essay, including conventions of academic English, is also another one of the criteria. And of course, academic research, including APA referencing. So these are the 4 areas that you are being assessed on. So it's good to keep that in mind. If you feel like you're getting a little bit off track in your writing, just come back to that criteria and that should guide you back to the right place. The rubric that's being used to assess you for this assessment is a holistic rubric. And the main difference between a holistic rubric and a more traditional one is that we're looking at your essay as a whole piece of work. We're not really breaking it down into specific criterion. So the holistic rubric provides a very clear description for each grade level. You need to meet every description for a particular grade level to receive that grade. If there's any dot point in the rubric in a particular grade that you haven't met, then you can't be awarded that grade. So if you do not meet every one of the standards at the pass level, unfortunately, the essay can't be passed, and there's no real leeway with that. And of course, the ELAs actually use that rubric quite closely when they're marking your essay or your assignment, and they will actually sit there and tick off the dot points to make sure that you've covered everything. So there's no room for us to, I guess, let certain standards go at each level. So, for example, the pass level is the one I think you will not need to look at very carefully, because you at least at the very minimum would like to pass, I'm sure. So unless you've covered all these dot points, you can't pass. So have a look at them carefully. You need to have an introduction that introduces the topic and the key points of your argument, and there is a clear thesis statement. Now, a thesis statement is the sentence that states the main idea of your writing assignment and helps control the main ideas in the assessment. So it's what your opinion is or your belief is that you are trying to convince the audience of. It's your opinion or your judgment, and it's your main stance throughout the whole essay. It can be based on either research or your personal opinion, that main statement. Best that it actually is based on both, on what you believe and how that is supported by your research. You've been able to identify why arts experiences are valuable in regard to the primary education context. So you do need to make sure that you're bringing it back to the classroom and to student learning to get a minimum pass. You've at least been able to discuss one example of arts education theory and research to receive a pass, and that you have drawn on the weekly learning materials. You need to have developed some kind of argument, and you have generally adhered to relevant conventions of English with an appropriate degree of structure and formality in your writing. So your work is proofread, and most of the spelling and grammatical areas have been corrected. And you need to provide some evidence to support most claims. So if your essay is completely lacking in research support, you won't be able to pass. So make sure, please, that you do have in-text citations throughout your essay. Having reached the pass level, then you might actually want to try and aim a little bit higher. So you would have to have already met all those dot points at pass level to be considered for a credit, and the credit level actually fulfills all of the requirements of the pass level, but is more sophisticated. So I'm not going to read all of this. I'm sure you can read it yourself in the assessment information sheet. But some keywords to look out for here is that you have included wide reading of relevant scholarly and recent literature. So not literature that's like 100 years old. It probably should be in the last 10 years wherever possible. And that you have a clear knowledge base for your argument. You're not just kind of rambling on a bit with your own opinion without any sort of basis for that opinion or no research to back it up. So you've got the wide reading evident there. Your argument is persuasive and develops logically across the body of the essay. Your argument is based on veracity and validity of the evidence. So they're important terms there, that your evidence is actually valid and it's rigorous. So it's good evidence that really supports what you're saying. You demonstrate some mature knowledge of why experiences are valuable, and there's clarity of thought, and you've expressed yourself well in your writing. You've referred to more than one personal experience as a learner participant, and these examples demonstrate a sound understanding of the arts. And also relates to teaching and learning in the classroom. Your writing is more concise and your word choice is deliberate. So everything has just been pushed up a level in terms of your writing and your referencing. Okay, again, at the distinction level, have a really close look at the rubric yourself, but at the distinction level, there is much more insightful analysis. So you've actually analysed your research. You've made some of your own critical evaluations. There is critical thinking evident. So you've really thought through, and you've really, you haven't just been passive in just collecting information, copying it into an essay. You've really been able to understand it and think it through, analyse it, compare it, and being more critical of what you've found through your research. You're very, very clear with the key points that you make, and your essay is very persuasive with evidence to support that. There are diverse examples of personal experience and a comprehensive understanding of why and how the arts can meaningfully enrich learning in the primary classroom. So yeah, some of those keywords there are diverse examples, comprehensive understanding, critical reading, critical thinking. And again, all those claims are supported by a wide range of relevant and contemporary resources. And in the writing part of it, again, we sort of go up the next level with thorough proofreading for this one, elimination of most errors, and effective language. It's professionally presented with a lot of care taken in the planning, editing, and proofreading. Okay, in the final level, the HD, so you've done everything at the other levels as well, and you've pretty much gone above and beyond that now for the HD level. Obviously pretty hard to get an HD, but there's no reason why you can't aim for that. Your explorations into arts education theories have been insightful and more sophisticated and nuanced in the discussion. So you present a persuasive argument. The argument is sound, logical, and well supported. So it would be the kind of essay that if an ELA was to read it, we would be sitting there going, "Wow, I feel convinced. I can't argue against what this person's saying. This person has the facts and the evidence to support their claims. There's no ambiguity. There's no contradiction. It's really well structured and it's very clear what the intention of the essay is, and we've been thoroughly convinced." There's a sophisticated demonstration of how the arts contribute, and it considers the primary education experience holistically. So looking at the student as a whole and their experiences as a learner as a whole, just not perhaps just pigeonholed into just arts for the art's sake. You might also be looking at how other subject areas or how other student experiences can be supported by the arts, or and how they can be impacted by the arts in a positive way all round. So you provide relevant scholarly contemporary evidence again, and you have demonstrated familiarity with the current field of research, again with a diverse range of references throughout. And effective language is a key feature of this paper as well. It's purposeful and deliberate. Okay. Well, I think that's it. I hope you all go very well with your first essay, your first assessment. Please don't feel shy about hitting the discussion board with questions. And we hope to see you at the first Collaborate session, where we will be able to discuss the assessment a little bit more. It will be mainly a question and answer session, not so much a presentation, because you've just had that. So come along to the session armed with your questions and enjoy. Thank you and good luck. Bye.